I have to just keep reminding myself that I can keep faking it till I make it. And once I'm talking about what I like, I kind of forget that I'm in front of people.
When you find your purpose and your passion and you create a legacy with your jewelry brand, everything just starts to fall into place. And that's exactly what happened with my guest, Kristine Jenson, who's on the show today. Hey there, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy and the host of this podcast. And I help jewelry business owners launch, grow, and scale successful 6- and 7-figure jewelry businesses using my methodology called the Desired Brand Effect. And after helping over 8,500 different jewelry business owners do amazing things with their business and help really clarify their messaging, I am excited to have another one of our students on the show today to talk a little bit more about her legacy and her passion for design and how she's developed a jewelry business with meaning that is a very personal story. So I'm welcoming Kristine Jenson on the show of Jenson Natural Jewelry, and she combines her love of both family and nature into her messaging and branding for everything that she does. In this episode, she is going to be sharing a little bit more about her story, her heart-wrenching story, I should say, and this legacy that she's building based on her niece, and how she's really developed a dream client and customer base that helped her sell over 90 pieces in just 3 hours. So we're gonna dig deep into some of those things. Now, before we start the interview, I would love to invite you to subscribe to this channel, click that little notification bell. And if you're enjoying the episode, we'd love to hear one of your key takeaways at the end. So let's dive in to today's episode with Kristine Jenson. All right, I'm so excited to be here today with Kristine Jenson on the podcast of Jenson Natural Jewelry. Kristine, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to have you here. You recently graduated from our Elena Foundation program. You joined us. Were you in the boot camp at the earlier part of the year?
Yes, I was. I did that and I decided, you know what, I'm going full in. So
I love it. Yeah. So you've graduated a few months ago technically, and you have, I always say graduated because it's like, I feel like everyone's like, I need to go back and do it again. Because I feel like the way that we made it is like really like a reference tool. It's not just like, do it and be done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you've done some great things. So I just wanted to ask, we're just going to have a conversation today and talk a little bit more about your journey. So my first question, because I know everyone would love to hear this, tell us a little bit about your business and how you got into jewelry.
Well, my entire career has been actually in the natural resources world. So my degree was in natural resources, environmental science, and then I spent a 20-year career in the government, working primarily trying to help water, lakes, rivers, wetlands, things like that. But I've always had a great love and connection with nature, rocks, soil, plants. I'm a complete geek about all of that stuff. But I never was tapping into that creative side. So along with that government career, I needed to de-stress. So I was a yogi, hardcore, always practicing yoga and doing a lot of meditation. And probably it was 2016, I took a mala making workshop. So a mala is a necklace like this, which has 108 stones on it, and it's used as a meditation tool. And when you're making it in the traditional Buddhist way, you're putting stones on a string and then your hand nodding between each stone. I found it to be just the most amazing practice. A lot of the people in the workshop were getting really frustrated with, trying to make the knots, trying to get the knots where they belong. Whereas I just got very in the flow and was fascinated with all the different stones that were available. And then just the tactile nature of creating the piece itself. I went home and started ordering strings of stones and making more malas, and found that it opened up that creative side of me that I really hadn't been tapping into for all these years. And eventually I had friends asking to have me make a mala for them. I had friends asking for bracelets, kind of that same scenario that you hear a lot of us makers starting out with. And then my husband said, it'd be really nice if you could pay for this habit of buying all these stones, right? So I sat and meditated on it. Like, okay, if I'm going to actually make a business out of this and make some money out of this, it needed to be about more than just putting more stuff out in the world, about making a buck. I mean, we all want to make a living, but I needed it to be about something more than that. And so I just sat and meditated on it, and it came to me very quickly that I needed to make it about something bigger than me. And so the business became about the legacy of my niece, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later. But it's just kind of, that's how the journey started. And then I was on Etsy for a little while, then quickly moved into a Shopify website. And it has just kept growing and growing and growing little by little. And now here I am. What is it, 6 years in business? So I feel like I've hit a really good milestone with it all.
That's so great. So I totally feel you with the hand nodding.
Yeah.
Last night I posted something on Instagram. It was like an old line sheet of mine, and I was looking through my Dropbox folder because, you know, back then when I was creating all these things, we didn't have as many digital files. So
Right.
they're all like stored on a hard drive somewhere, which I got to go find. But I did find a few. And one of them was like one of my first collections, which was all hand knotted, beaded necklaces. And I too love that meditative process. And it's hard and it's frustrating if the knot tightens too fast because you're like,
Yes.
I got to take this whole thing apart because it didn't slide
Yep.
all the way down. And now it's like the bead is loose. So
Yes.
it is, I can see why the people were frustrated. And I can also see how it was meditative for you because it's like repetitive motion over and over
It
again,
is.
which is cool. It's like a meditation in
Yeah.
itself.
Exactly. And I ended up actually teaching workshops myself on how to make a mala necklace as kind of part of my journey into this whole jewelry business. And so I'd have, you know, like a dozen people in the room trying to make these mala necklaces and getting really frustrated with their knots. And I became lovingly known as the knot whisperer because I could undo any knot. If you just
Wow.
gave me enough time, I could get any knot undone for them. So
I love
that's
that.
kind of my fun nickname.
So you mentioned selling on Etsy
Yeah.
and Shopify. Are those the only places you're selling your jewelry?
It's primarily on Shopify. I'm not on Etsy anymore,
Okay, great.
but I'm on Shopify. Yeah, I'm on Shopify, and then I have a relationship with Fair. It's a
Mhm.
wholesale site, so I'm on there, and that's primarily where where I do my business out of. I just moved. I was living in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area in Minnesota, and I've lived there for 49 years, and so I had a strong community there and people that would buy from me in person, and I did a lot of in-person markets around there, which was it's a really big thing in that area. But I've now recently moved and I'm in the northern woods of Wisconsin where there are no cities. I mean, there's not a Target for 2 hours. And so I don't have like the ability to do a lot of in-person sales anymore. So I'm very much so selling just on Shopify.
Focus the online. I love your little,
Yeah.
you can't see this if you're listening to the
Yeah.
audio, but she has these this is giving me ideas, these beautiful crystal ledges. It's a beautiful
Mhm.
backdrop.
Thank you.
I have like crystals like that all over. They're just like laying in a bucket in my house. I'm
Oh,
like, I need
no.
to display them.
Yeah, I play with them all the time. That's just a little peek at what I have.
Oh my gosh. So what was your strategy or plan when you were first starting out growing your business?
A plan? What's that? I mean, it was really just it was really just trying at first. I remember I sat with my computer over a weekend. I think it was over 4th of July weekend, and just started posting stuff on Etsy just to see.
Yeah.
And just did not know what the hell I was doing. But a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, she does marketing for a jewelry company. And she was like, girl, you need to get a Shopify site. So she helped me pretty quickly merge into or move over into a Shopify site. So that was how I started to create kind of a plan. It's like, you know, seeing my own site, how I wanted to present myself, kind of what my ethos is, what my brand is, things like that. I still have always, I'm working on making my mind think broader than, oh, it's just little old me. But that is part of the process of that. It's not just me in my house in my corner making jewelry and aren't I cute? It's I have to think on a broader scale now. And I have been doing that over the last few years. It's just kind of a slow process for me personally. I'm a personality that likes to hide behind the scenes rather than be forward facing. And so that's been part of my strategy now is making myself be more out there, letting people see me, hear me, interact with me. And so that's having to get in front of the camera for things like social media, doing this, you know, letting people hear who I am. And just kind of sharing my story and my brand and how I came to be where I'm at right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm really curious. How have you gotten over that, like, I'm going to say discomfort because it may not be
Mhm.
fear for you, but the discomfort of going from behind a bench or, behind the scenes to in the
Yeah.
front?
Well, I think I've mastered the skill of fake it till you make it. And yeah, I mean, in my career in the government, I actually taught a lot of classes. I taught a lot of classes to the public about these things called rain gardens that are help
Hmm.
with water quality things. So I'd have to get in front of classrooms of, 30 people and be a complete geek talking about plants and aren't they cool how they absorb water and things like that. And I realized I would get so into what I was talking about that I forgot that I was in front of a bunch of people. And so I have to just keep reminding myself that I can keep faking it till I make it. And
Yeah.
once I'm talking about what I like, I kind of forget that I'm in front of people. And the funny thing is also, I am a yoga teacher. At least I was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Taught yoga for 4 years, so I would get up in front of groups and teach, and it was like almost like another personality takes hold.
Mm.
And I put it on. It's not fake, but it's like this other side of my personality where I can put it on. I can perform, for lack of a better word, but be that forward facing person. But then I find later I'm just going to be like completely exhausted. It's the introvert in me. I will
Yeah.
be totally wiped out later.
Well, it's interesting. I love it that you say, like, you kind of step into this other persona, because there's been a lot of studies on this, on how
Yeah.
creating an alter ego. One of my friends actually wrote a book about this. It's called Alter Ego, Todd
Mm-hmm.
Herman. And one of my first coaches that I ever had, trying to remember when I was working with her, maybe 12 years ago when I was starting my second business. I had a lack of confidence back then just because of what had happened. And I was just really burnt out in general. And she's like, you need to create an alter ego that you can pull out, like a little lipstick alter ego that you can step
Mm-hmm.
into. And mine was attractive amethyst. Like, I called her a jewelry name. And it was something that, if I wanted to get the things that I wanted and attract the things I wanted, attractive amethyst would come out and I would just step into that alter ego. So, great tip for
Yeah.
anyone listening: pick up Todd Herman's book, develop your own alter ego. And especially if you're shy or introverted, it really, really helps in getting in front, because you can separate that feeling of like it being so personal in you into, like, I don't know, compartmentalizing, I guess. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's something like
Yeah.
that.
I need to come up with a name for mine now. Now you've
Oh,
got me thinking
yeah.
on that. Yeah.
Badass
I've
Kristine.
got a name for the like that nagging voice in my head that likes to tell me I'm doing something wrong. So I need to have a
What's
name
that
for
name?
that. If anyone's named this, just, it's not personal, but her name's Brenda because I don't know anyone named Brenda. And so if I'm beating myself up inside, I'll be like, shut up, Brenda.
That is so good. Shut up, Brenda. Then it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, I don't think I called her Negative Nelly, but I did have a name for the negative one. I can't remember what it was, but it's
Yeah.
great. It's like actually a great tool. Like, if you
Yeah,
have negative self-talk or limiting beliefs, like, it's really, really powerful
for sure.
to step into those alter egos. So you have a story about your brand that's really influenced by your niece. Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about this.
So the heart and soul of my business is my niece. Her name is Devin, and my brother had his two daughters before I ever had kids. And he had Drew, and then he had Devin 2 years later. And I never, it's so cliche, but I never knew what true love was until they came into my life. And as soon as I met Drew, because she's the firstborn, I understood the concept of my heart living outside of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, I think about it and it just kind of takes my breath away even now when I think about the amount of love that I have that just is like outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so Drew came first, and then 2 years later, Devin arrived, and we were so excited. And everything seemed totally fine. But a day after she was born, she started to go into distress. And I can still remember getting that phone call. I was taking care of Drew at my house because they were at the hospital, with their baby, and them telling me that something was really wrong. that Devin was being transported to Children's Hospital in Minneapolis, and that we needed to get down there. And I picked up Drew and headed down to Children's. And I remember walking down the hallway with her. She's 2 years old. And I don't know what I'm about to walk into, but I'm scared in a way that I've never been, more scared in my life. And she's holding on to me as I'm holding on to her. And she puts her hands on both sides of my cheeks and she goes, "I love baby Devin." I said, "I do too, baby." And we walked in and this journey began. And we learned that Devin had a very rare heart defect called hypoplastic left heart syndrome, or HLHS. And what it means is the left side of her heart didn't form. That's the real plain terms of it. And most people don't realize this, but the left side of your heart is actually about 2/3 of your heart.
Oh,
So
wow.
she was working with just this little tiny part of a heart and with a very narrow aorta. And then another thing that wasn't in her favor was that her lungs just weren't very strong. So as we're trying to absorb all this information, going from elation of a brand new baby to absolute destruction, the doctor said, "Well, you have three choices. You can take her home, let nature take its course, maybe have about 2 weeks with her if you're lucky. We could put her on a heart transplant list, but there are no baby hearts out there. Or we can try this series of operations," which was relatively new at the time. And Children's Hospital in Minnesota was one of the hospitals working on it. And it was a series of operations where they tried to replumb her heart and have just that little bit of her heart do all the work until she got old enough to hopefully get a heart transplant. And that's the option we chose. So at 5 days old, she had her first open heart surgery. And wow. Yeah, the night before her surgery, my brother and I were sitting on opposite sides of her bed, and I was reading a book to her. I believe it was Goodnight Moon. And I was reading to her, and she's just laying there. And I looked over at my brother when I was done, and I looked him straight in the eye, and I said, "I'll take her place. She can have my heart. I will take her place." And it was not false words. I meant it with everything. I mean, I would take a bullet. I would do anything for her. And he just looked at me and he goes, "I know," but obviously couldn't do that.
Yeah, your heart's too big for this little tiny baby anyway.
Yeah. So fast forward 3.5 years, we had her. We went through many surgeries, much more than just that series of operations. She had countless surgeries and procedures. If she caught any sort of virus, it became pneumonia and another week stay in the hospital. I became basically a second mom to Drew because my brother and his wife were constantly racing to the hospital and someone had to be taking care of Drew. And it was my honor to play that role. I would do it every day. It doesn't matter. We got 3.5 years with her. She was a feisty, beautiful, amazing, amazing creature. So feisty. She loved kitties. She went nuts for Hello Kitty. Like you'd be in a cart at Target going around and she would see Hello Kitty and you would hear this high-pitched kind of scratchy voice screaming from across the other end of Target, "Hello Kitty, hello Kitty," just like going nuts. But anyways, September of 2003, she went in for what was supposed to be that final series of her surgeries. And we made it through. We were like, "Oh my God, it worked. We've got her. It's okay." But her body just did not handle it. It's like it couldn't figure out how to work with that new plumbing. And then she caught RSV, which is a very common virus that you can get in the hospital. And
what is that? What's the name for it?
It's a respiratory virus, RSV. And it's common, but if you have a immune system that's not working well, it can cause a lot of damage. And Devin just started to fail, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. We ended up putting her back on a bypass machine and then on a machine called an ECMO machine, which basically did all the work to keep her body alive. And we were told after 6 weeks, there was nothing more we could do. And so, we had to make the decision and we turned off the machines. And right before we did, the nurses were kind enough to let me help get her ready. And so I was like taking the tape off of her cheek, and as I took it off, her eyes opened up. And it was just
Whoa.
a reaction, but I was the last person to ever see those beautiful blue eyes. And I know I'm going on and on about this, but those 3.5 years changed who I am fundamentally. And
Mhm.
I said the night that she died, I was curled up in a ball on the floor of a hospital room. And I said, she doesn't have to die for me to know the lessons. I learned the lessons because she lived. She
Mhm.
taught me what was important in life. And everything changed about me after that. And long story short, what it comes down to is love.
Yeah.
Everything is about love and acceptance and forgiveness and kindness. That's what it's all about. It changed my mindset in so many ways. If someone's racing down the highway now, instead of me getting mad at them for driving like
Mhm.
an idiot, I think maybe they're racing to a hospital. Maybe,
Yeah.
like it just kind of changes what goes on in my brain every day. So when I started this business and I was trying to think of how I can make this be about more than just making money,
Mhm.
it all came to me. It's about Devin. It's all about Devin. It's about sharing who she was with the world, sharing that beautiful smile, sharing her legacy. And through the company, I donate at least 10% of my profits in her name to Children's Hospital. And there's a little plaque on the wall at the hospital from my brother and his wife donating a bunch of money. And then, it's just, she has a legacy, is what
Yeah.
it is. And every product that I sell, a card goes with them with that little picture of Devin and just a couple sentences about who she was. And it has made an impact around the world. I have a person from New Zealand who bought a custom bracelet from me, and I sent it there. And when they got it, they emailed me immediately and they said, I didn't know about Devin, but it was fate that we found each other because my sister had the same heart condition. And it just obviously was meant to be. Another great story was 6 months after I started my business, I was doing one of those many in-person markets that I did in the beginning to kind of get my name out. And again, I'm shy and introverted, but I was at this brewery trying to sell my stuff. And I'd get like 10 seconds if a person stopped by to, try and chat them up. And I would say, my name's Kristine Jenson. My jewelry is all handmade with natural stones and crystals. I do everything myself, and I donate 10% of my profits to Children's Hospital in memory of my niece. And I'd have like this little cardboard sign with Devin's picture on it. And one person stopped and said, tell me more about her. And I said, well, she had this heart defect, HLHS, no one's ever heard of it, blah, blah, blah. And the woman said, my friend needs to hear this. And she goes and she grabs her friend, brings her back and says, tell her what you just told me. So I did, and her friend was just nodding, and she said, tell me what heart defect it was. And I said, well, it's called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. And the woman she nods and she goes, I just created the heart that'll fix that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I looked at her and I went, what? And my mouth's just hanging open. And she goes, yeah, I've been researching this for 40 years. And one of the hearts that I've created worked in an HLHS patient just last week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And as
Wow.
I'm telling it, I get chills again. And I mean, again, my mouth's hanging open, nothing is coming out of my mouth. And finally, all I got out was, you're a hero. And she pointed to Deb's picture and she goes, no, she is. And she walked away. And her friend leaned over and said, she's far too modest. Her name's Dr. Doris Taylor, and she created Ghost Heart. Look it up. And I did, and it's real. And while
Wow.
it's not widely able to be used yet, because they're still working on it, um, it's there and it's something that's being worked on. And the day that happened was the day that my business went from running in the red to making a profit.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, my business is all about Devin.
I'm like, I don't even know, because the next question I have for you is like, a terrible question to ask after this, but like maybe this is helpful. I think a better question maybe than when I like planned to ask you is how have you incorporated this mission that you have into your messaging for your jewelry brand?
Well, Devin's favorite colors were periwinkle and purple. And so the coloring of my brand carries that in it. The information card that I use is in that color of ink as well. The every card that goes with the orders has Devin's picture on it with, the little bit about her. And I talk about all the time donating at least 10% towards the cardiovascular program at Children's Hospital in Devin's name. So I incorporate her in everything. And whenever I start to get lost in my business, I'll say it's about Dev, and everything just becomes very clear for me then. The decisions that I make, the way that I move forward, it's always about her, and that it's something bigger than just me.
I love that so much, which is, I was sitting here like wiping away tears, like so emotional right now.
Yeah.
You know how to like keep talking to you.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna get down to like brass tacks questions.
That's like, okay.
So you took our Elena Foundation program, and
yes.
Obviously you're using it and implementing it into your business. So my first question about that is like, how has that helped you, or like what were some of the challenges you were experiencing that kind of led you to join that program?
Well, I had taken a lot of the free trainings that you offered over the years, just kind of dabbling, seeing, is this something that is real, that could actually really help me? And I was always seeing results whenever I would implement something that I learned, like your fast cash strategies one. I started doing some of the things on there, and I had like a dozen sales just because of the things that I learned from that. And I'm like, okay, this stuff really is working. But then it's like, oh, can I really invest this much money? I'm a really small business still. But I was like, you know what? I am serious. Like, it's time, to put my feet down and say, I am doing this. And so I joined. And if anything, it just really helped me focus on making myself more than just being a maker, making myself I am a maker. I am the creator of everything, but of the creator of everything in my business, not everything, but everything in my business.
I am the creator of everything.
I'm the creator. But getting myself out of that maker mindset, which is something that we learn in laying the foundation, and just the brass tacks of like making sure I had the right legal stuff on my website, and how I present my products on my website, how I, the whole branding, making a cohesive brand. I had my logo made years ago, but I hadn't really come up with like a whole branding assets package. And so just things like that, really establishing myself as not just a maker, but this is a business, and honing in the big thing. Can't believe it took me this long to say this. The big thing was honing in on my dream client.
Yeah. I feel like that's everyone's kind of thing that they're.
Yep. Because you go into it thinking, I just am going to try and please everyone and, see what happens. And I had enough years behind me in the business to kind of know who my client was all the time. Who is the person that is buying from me far more often than anyone else?
Yeah.
And honing who that is, creating a name, a face, a story behind who that person is. And then putting all my language, how I presented everything with that person in mind. And it has worked. Like, I have seen the growth in the business, and I put a lot of it behind that dream client focus. And laying the foundation also just gave me confidence that I didn't really have, mostly because of the community, the other people. And I joined the Diamond Insiders also because I was getting so much out of the conversations I was having with people. I needed help with a special a custom request that I had from one of my customers for doing something to a stone that I don't have the skills in. And so I kind of put it out there, and I had all these people saying, "Oh yeah, I could help you with this," or "Here, why don't you think about doing this? You could totally
Yeah.
do it yourself," like trying to teach me how to do it. And so it's, like you always say, it's collaboration, not competition.
Hmm.
And, one of my post-it notes that's on my computer that I see every day is connect and amplify. Like, how can I connect with people and amplify? And, them, myself together, how can we lift each other up? And that's how I see LTF as well.
I love that. I'm going to write this down. Connect and amplify. I love
That's
that.
trademarked. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
One of the things that you did after taking Elena Foundation was host a successful trunk show. You mentioned earlier
yeah.
that you're shy and it's hard for you to get on video. Why don't you tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about that?
Well, when COVID hit, I did a really impromptu Facebook sale just with like, a dozen friends came on, but they came on. And so, that was 3 years ago without really having any plan of
Yeah.
how to do it and stuff. Where this time I I did kind of decide to do it relatively quickly. Like from the time that my brain said, yeah, let's do it, to actually implementing it was probably only about a week. But that's probably a good thing, because otherwise I would talk myself out of it. Um, and I had help in the new assistant that I had brought on, and he was game for riding that crazy train with me that day. But we did a lot of promotion ahead of time, a lot of Facebook, Instagram. I was reaching out to like my inner circle of people. I have my email list. I was blasting it out in all kinds of different ways, because what's the rule? You have to get your message out 3 times in 3 different ways before someone actually
Mhm.
absorbs it. So LTF had given me the confidence to be able to do that and not feel like I'm bugging people. And yeah, so doing all that, it still was crazy hectic the night that it happened. I can tell you 3 hours goes by really fast when
Yes.
you're trying to do a sale like that. And poor Sam, I was afraid I maybe broke him that night because he, he was like running with a chicken with its head cut off, trying to like keep up with who bought what, and you know trying to keep track of everything, because he doesn't know what all the stones are yet and what all the
Yeah.
pieces are called yet. So he was trying to keep track of everything behind the scenes. And yeah, but it went really well. We sold 90 pieces, nine
Oh my
zero.
gosh. 90 pieces of jewelry.
Yeah, and I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
I'm not a high priced jewelry designer. I mean, my stuff, like my highest end stuff, is probably $150,
That's
but
still
still
great.
90 pieces is a lot. So
Yeah.
I was thrilled, and I was just preparing to move from the Minneapolis St. Paul area to my house in the woods. And so I promoted it as help me lighten my load. I mean,
Hmm.
this is a lot of rocks I have to haul. So,
Yeah.
let's clear out some of my stock. And it went great. I was really excited. And I put out kind of a little questionnaire afterwards, and people said they want me to do that 2 to 3 times a year. So I'll be doing another one come the holiday season.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So exciting. You mentioned in the pre-interview just saying things about an increase in your total sales, average sales
Yep.
amount, and your conversion rates compared to last year. What were some of the changes that you made, or some of the strategies that helped contribute to this positive shift in your business?
The dream client, focusing
Yeah.
on the dream client, and being more consistent with putting out the emails.
Hmm.
And I tested different ways of doing things in my emails. I did kind of a stone of the month email, where I would talk about like maybe lapis or amethyst on a particular month. And so I would put out kind of like an educational thing, because again, I get super geeky, and the scientist in me wants to talk about all the different aspects of a stone, the science of it, but then also the woo woo metaphysical stuff
Hmm.
too. And so I would do an email like that, and then say, this month everything with amethyst is 15% off, or, something
Yeah.
like that. People were loving it and loving like the educational aspects of it. And again, that's part of my dream client. Like, they want to learn about this stuff. They're really into it. And so doing things like that and being more conversational in my emails. that's one thing when I was in person is, despite being shy, I'm very warm in
Yeah.
person, and people feel very comfortable with me. And so I was trying to make my writing reflect that as
Yep.
well. And because I do feel like the people that are on my email list are my friends, even if I haven't met some of them, they're my friends, and
Yeah.
I want to treat them that way. And just last week, I think it was just a week ago, I started a Facebook VIP group that Chelsea Farmer, she did a
Yeah.
video about her VIP group, and I was influenced by that. So again, another thing that I got out of being part of DI and LTF, and doing that VIP group has been so much fun. Just in the 1 week I've put it up. Again, I'm small, but I've got like 65 people
That's
already in
great.
just a week. Yeah, which for me, that's great. And, I put a little video on up there this morning, again, just trying to put my face forward, saying, I'm really nervous. I'm going to be on this podcast today, send me good vibes. And, people are sending me messages saying that how much they love me and I'll do great. And, it's just creating that connection. And
Yeah.
that has shown then in like the sales increase, the conversion increase, and another huge like business figure that I noticed was my returning customer rate went up 76%.
Wow.
And
That is
yeah,
huge.
yeah, because a returning customer costs far less to woo than a
Mhm.
new customer. You have to put way
Yeah.
more effort into getting that new customer. So to see that this year as compared to last year that my returning customer rate's up 76%, that's a huge,
This
huge
is
number.
amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. So you brought in a part-time assistant for marketing. How has that
Yep.
impacted your daily operations and sales?
It's just fun having someone to talk to and like, to kind of be like my friend in the business. So Sam has been great. He is younger. He is actually,
Mhm.
he's a friend of my older daughter's actually. So he's in his 20s. And, but we had a really good talk about it before I hired him, and he gets who this dream client is. He loves the idea of what the business is about, who we are talking to.
Mhm.
He loves that the business is, about more than just selling jewelry. And that really speaks to him and his ethos in life. And so we've really gelled in that way. So that's been it's just been nice to kind of share the load a little bit with
Mhm.
someone, and he has a fresh view on things. So it was his idea, and it's running right now, a little contest that is
Oh,
being
super
promoted
fun.
on the social media pages. It's a contest for, helping to grow following, but also to connect with people. So part of it is leaving a Google review,
Yeah.
and I am personally reaching out and thanking every person that leaves a review or that
Yeah.
interacts as part of the
So great.
contest. And yeah, and that was totally his idea. I'm like, sweet, go for it. Let's rock. Let's do it.
That's amazing. So, what are you said community played like a very specific role in your success? Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
It's again, it's knowing that you're not alone in
Mhm.
this journey. A lot of us can be in our workshop behind the bench, or at the computer, getting our website going, and think that we're really alone. And we're not. There are a lot of us out there that are trying to do it all by ourselves. A lot of us are parents, or maybe we're taking care of our older parents, or we're doing both,
Yep.
and we can just get very tunnel visioned and
Yeah.
just caught in our own little space. And the LTF community, the DI community, just makes you feel really supported. And it's such a mixture of people that create all kinds of different types of jewelry that, have wide range of where they're at in their business in terms of, the sales that they make every year. And no one looks down upon each other. It's
Mhm.
all about support. And if someone has a question, you get all kinds of great input and responses. And so that is huge. Like it lets you know you're
Yeah.
not alone. And that's a huge thing in life in all ways. So yeah, that's been a great part of LTF for me.
Did you have any hesitations in joining the program?
No, other than, just being cheap. and being like, oh, can I really afford to do this? And it's like, yeah, I can, because I'm gonna see the return, and that's what it's like in business. You have to take chances. It's like that in life. You have to take chances if you
Yeah.
want to see some change happen in your life. And you have to be ready to do that, to take that chance. And I just knew I had faith after, again, doing like the free trainings and seeing the impact that I was having. And the boot camp that I did was so fun.
Yeah.
And it was that January cohort, man,
It's
they were
amazing.
real, yeah, they were super lively. And I just felt really at home and kind of part of the group. So
So great.
um yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm all in. Let's go.
Do you have any final words of advice for someone who's considering joining Elena Foundation?
Just do it. Do it. I mean, you're not going to regret it. You're going to get something out of it. I guarantee it. Whether you've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, or you're just starting out, you're going to learn things because you're going to be getting it from different perspectives. Again, different ages of people have different ideas. Whether you're brand new or you've been in business 20 years, you're going to have different ideas of how to look at things and do things. Someone who's been in business 20 years can learn something from someone who's younger and newer and starting out and has just kind
Mhm.
of a fresh take on things, and vice versa. And I think a lot of people will feel that what they're making isn't good enough. What they're making, what makes me unique, what makes me special? Why do I deserve to, be someone that has this business that grows and does great things? And I'm telling you, we all are unique. I make mostly beaded jewelry. There's a lot of beaded jewelry out there. You can go, to Walmart and buy an $8 beaded bracelet.
Mhm.
So I could like talk myself out of what I do, but only I see my beaded bracelets in the way that I see them. Like
Yep.
the way that I create them, the way that I make them, the way that I source them is individual. And so is the next person. Chelsea Farmer makes beaded
Yep.
bracelets. And I've said to her, I admire her business so much, and admire the way that she does things, but I don't feel it's competition,
No.
because she has a little bit of a different take and I have a little bit of a different take,
Mhm.
and so there's plenty of room for all of us.
This
We
is true.
Yep, there's room for all of us. We're all unique in our own ways. I am all about that collaboration, that competition. And I think if you joined LTF, you would find that as well. And you're going to make new friends. You're going to find support from people all around the world. And it, yeah, it's priceless. It really is.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. I'm like
Thank you.
tears.
I know. Thank you for allowing me to share it.
Yeah.
It's the most important part of my business. That's why I do it. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Where can everyone find you?
I am on Shopify. Well, I'm on the web. www.jensonnaturalJewelry.com. That's Jenson. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. I'm on all those places at Jenson Natural Jewelry. So come
Awesome.
find me, come join the party.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. This is Tracy Matthews signing off. Until next time. Before I go, I would love to invite you to join us for our Laying the Foundation program. It is an amazing program that has helped so many students launch, grow, and scale successful six-figure businesses. If you'd like to learn more about how we can support you in getting consistent, predictable sales, how we can help you up-level your brand and your messaging, create collections that sell, and market and sell like a boss, well, we got you. Head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/LTF.